Smith was recently arrested. If you guys want to know all his charges, check out my post before this post. But apparently he was driving at 5 in the morning. He allegedly hit another vehicle. He pulled over with the vehicle, started talking to the vehicle, and the vehicle ended up calling the cops. And I guess once Dylan got wind that the police were on their way, he decided to dip out. Eventually the police caught up to him. But let's check out this post from one Reddit user who posted this video of Dylan. This is the guy that Dylan hit. Okay, so there was audio in this video, but for some reason I can never get the audio to save when I do screen recordings from Reddit. But pretty much this guy pulled up, he saw that his vehicle had been damaged, and he's like, damn, man. And he told somebody to call the police. And Dylan told him to go ahead and call the police. And then the guy said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get some videotape of the damage, and he starts walking around the vehicle, and this guy points out, hey, make sure you get the license plate, and that's when he zooms in on the license plate, and then he walks back to his vehicle. That was pretty much the end of the video, but that was not the end of what happened. According to Long Jumping Storm 707 on Reddit, the guy that Dylan wrecked into, he said, I was on my way to work and this dumbass swerved into my lane. I tried to go around him, but he ended up hitting me on the passenger side of my vehicle. I walked up to his car and he didn't even know where the F he was at. That honestly doesn't surprise me. Then he goes on to say, while I was on the phone with 911, he ended up driving off. He jumped out of his cyber truck a block away and ran somewhere. So they impounded the truck. I saw him later that day on Chicago mugshots on Facebook. I saw the comments and they said this guy, Dylan Smith, was from Love After Lockup. Now my insurance is trying to go after him. Damn. And I bet Dylan probably waited until that guy was done recording, and then he probably put the pedal to the metal when it came to the gas. But I'm glad that the cops ended up getting him, and hopefully justice is served. Once the Chicago police caught up with Dylan, he was arrested for improper traffic lane usage, for an issuance of a warrant, which I'm assuming is from the hit and run, and then he was arrested for knowingly possessing a fraudulent driver's license or permit, which I'm curious about that. Like, did you steal somebody's permit or driver's license, or did he get one off the black market or try to make one himself? And now, since we're talking about Dylan, I do want to talk about his ex-girlfriend Heather, because she has been going through it. So we know Xavier, that's who she had her son Weston with, and she's been dating him for the past few years. Well, she revealed that Xavier is no longer allowed to go and visit with her son Weston. So neither one of them have custody of her son Weston, and they are allowed to do supervised visits at the DFS office with CPS workers supervising the visits. At first, she was allowed to do multiple visits a week, but I think she's down only having 1 or 2 visits a week. And she revealed that she has not spoken with her daughter Viviana face-to-face in almost 7 weeks since I went to her school for a facial. It's been 3 days, and Alexis and then she said for BB it's been 3 days, and her daughter Alexis, she spoke with her briefly in the morning, but she said they still have Xavier locked out of our visits with Weston, and I'm still waiting for a call back from lawyers regarding getting in front of the judge to have his visits reinstated. I went there on Monday and they said that the courts were closed and I need a new home by May 1st. My nervous system is angry for the way I live in a semi-neurotic state, but I'm aware that my energy pushes people away or draws them in, and I'm working on mastery. To get the children back, I need more power. Power, where you at? So the big question is, what did Xavier do to lose his visits? I mean, he could have tested negative or tested positive for a drug test. That could have been why. Or it could have been something that he did or said during a visit. There's rumors that, I don't know, a few people in my comments were trying to say that someone was trying to claim that Xavier got caught having sex in Heather's vehicle in front of the DFS office. I don't know how true that is. I don't think I've seen Heather speak on that. But I'm going to assume if I was to go on a whim and try to guess why he was banned, I don't know. This is just pure speculation. I wouldn't be shocked if it had to do with the way he dresses, because we've seen Xavier embracing his more feminine side. He's been borrowing Heather's clothes. He'll wear her tight leggings, but not just her leggings. He'll wear her short booty shorts, her skirts, her dresses. Pretty much anything we see Heather wears, he's going to wear. And we've even seen him rock high heels and fishnets. And there's been several times that I've seen him pull up to visits with his son Weston, and I've seen him in the background of pictures that Heather took. And sometimes he looks perfectly normal, but I do remember there's been several times where I saw how he was dressed and I was like, that doesn't seem too appropriate for a CPS visit, especially when you want to be on your best behavior and put on the best face that you can to try to get full custody back of your son eventually. You think you would be trying to dress as nice as possible, and I'm assuming it's probably something to do with either the way he was dressing or what Heather says, because we know that Heather has talked about being bludgeoned multiple times just in the past 2 months, and she's went live and she's had like black eyes and a huge knot on her head. And there's been times that she'll go live and she'll flat out say, yeah, Xavier did this. Xavier pushed me to the ground. I was fighting with Xavier. And I wouldn't be surprised if she slipped up and told the CPS people something like that. And they're probably like, okay, well, if he's hurting her, who's to say that he won't hurt his child? But in my opinion, I don't know. Maybe he's like that, but I kind of have a feeling that a lot of times that he gets like that with Heather, that he's defending himself, because we have heard of her being physical with partners in the past, and we have seen her where she likes to push people's buttons. And she did just have court for an eviction just on the 6th. I do not know what ended up happening from that, but she claims that she's in the process of being evicted because the landlord didn't like her, because she tried to tell the landlord they needed to put cameras in her apartment because somebody kept breaking in her apartment and taking shits in her toilet and was stealing her stuff. Heather tries to blame that for the reason why she's getting evicted, but I feel like there's more to it. I feel like either she wasn't paying, or maybe she was just way too much of a nuisance, like constantly yelling. And we've seen how she treats her apartments in the past, like when she was writing all over her walls and her cabinets and everything. She doesn't like to follow all the rules, so I want to be shocked if that's why she's getting evicted. And she tries to act like it's not because of non-payment, and she's always paid her rent on time. But certain Heather IG pages, like the Sheriff of Nodding Off and Loco Coco McHufferton, they have exposed Heather and her inconsistencies and showed videos where she has said, oh yeah, I'm 2 weeks late on my rent. I'm trying to DoorDash so I can come up with money for my rent, when she literally was just swearing that she's never been late on rent. But there's plenty of clips admitting where she has been. So the Sheriff of Nodding Off, they broke down the eviction process. Shout out to them. But it shows here that once the judge makes their decision, typically within the next week or two, the sheriff will set an eviction date, and then 30 to 60 days later, that person will move out. So they're estimating, since the trial is on March 20th, that she'll likely have to be moved out by mid-May or mid-April to May. I will definitely keep you guys updated on what ends up happening with her eviction. But damn, if she gets evicted, then she's not going to be able to get a property in her name for at least the next 6-7 years. And I know Xavier doesn't have a job, so he's not going to be able to get a place in his name. So they're going to be all sorts of screwed. And I wouldn't be shocked if they end up back in the streets of Chicago living in a tent. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.